welcome to Your Mac Life for Wednesday. What day is it? Today is the
13th.
February 13th. It's our friend Corey's birthday.
It is.
Happy birthday, Corey.
Yes, my beautiful friend.
We went out for lunch with Corey this afternoon, and Lisa got all liquored up, so this is going to be a good show.
I'm liquored up. He calls me Lisa.
Jesus.
Oh, glory. Anyway, everybody, let's just move on. I know, right?
Okay, we're gonna start
Ouch. Look, Monty's like, ouch.
We're going to start the whole show over.
No, we're not. Moving on.
Oh, no.
You're going to face up to your mistake, dude, and keep going. You're not going back here. You have to move forward. Lisa got all liquored up. The beer almost came out of MacMan's nose. Wow. And I got liquored up. I had one beer. This is just great.
I'll
get a really good night's sleep tonight.
I'm so going to pay for that. Whether I start the show again or not, I'm going to pay for that tomorrow night. Tomorrow
night? I think you're liquored up. Don't even ask me to forgive you. You need to continue on with the show now. I know it's cliche, but the show must go on.
I love my wife, Melissa.
You should move on now. Jeez Louise, Shawn. I know, right, Mo? Yep.
Are you going to be okay to do the rest of the show? Or do you want to leave? I'll understand if you leave. I will.
I wouldn't do that. That would make me look like a fool. And you're the one that's a fool, so. Thank you, Mo. I am a patient, tolerant person. You're very sweet to say that. But I'm not getting a lot of sleep. So.
And you can see why. Because her husband's an idiot.
This is not connected to his frontal lobe.
On tonight's show, we're going to talk to our good friend Jim Dalrymple with The Loop at loopinsight.com. We're going to talk to Jim about Angela Ahrendts has left Apple as the vice president of retail. She's being replaced by Deirdre O'Brien's. All kinds of suppositions and conspiracy theories and things like that as to why Mrs. Ahrendts left. Let's talk to what the problems with the Apple retail stores are, in Jim's opinion and in your opinion. Also, a bunch of other rumors. There's a rumor that Apple is going to be doing a new subscription service on March 25th, that in April they're going to bring out their video streaming service. We'll talk to Jim about those kinds of things as well. Also, Amazon bought Eero. Now, Eero is, for those folks who aren't familiar with it, a mesh router network. Usable only by nerds, for the most part. The average person gets their router from their ISP, like Melissa did. She called up her local ISP, said, I want internet connection. They gave her a router. She puts the router down, and if the router doesn't work in various areas of the house, you think, oh, router didn't work. The average user doesn't try to figure that out. They just accept the fact the router didn't work. Eero networks allow you to fill in those hotspots. So, as we know here, Melissa, in our house, Rory's room, which is on the other side from the router, often gets weak Wi-Fi. If we had the Eero network, we could put another little Eero base station in Rory's room and therefore fill in those dead spots.
Well, they do that in schools.
Yes, exactly. It's the kind of thing that they do in schools. And this is the home version of that.
Oh.
Everyone was hoping, certainly I was, that Apple would get involved in this space. Because one of the problems with Eero type networks, with mesh networks, is configuration. It can be difficult for the average person to configure 3, 4, 5 different base stations. Apple didn't do that. They did the exact opposite, actually, and they killed their Apple Airport base station program. So people are left with other companies. We talked to Jim about Eero and Amazon, why they bought them, and whether he's concerned that Eero is now owned by Apple. And we're also going to talk in our starting point photography segment about action shots with your phone. One of the things I've often told people is action shots with your iPhone are not easy. They're not impossible, but they're not easy. I had someone talking to me, asking me about how could they get pictures of their kid doing things, running around, skateboarding, playing baseball, that kind of stuff. And so I've got some advice for him and obviously for you guys as well. All that and much more coming up a little later on in the show. I want to say a big, huge Canadian thank you to Doug Hennessy. Doug sent me one of these. This is so cute. Thank you, Doug. I had explained to Melissa what this was. This is a little teeny tiny. First of all, what it's supposed to be is an Apple Watch holder. You put your Apple Watch, you put your the circle in the back. You put your, can I have my finger there? You put your Apple Watch charger back there. Then your Apple Watch goes into the top here, and it charges through the charger that's in the back of this little thing. But you can also see the watch face, which is kind of cute. So while your phone is charging, you have this little tiny Mac SE30 sitting on your desk or on your bedside table. The problem is, as I quickly found, Apple's watch alarm implementation is freaking ridiculous. It turns out you can't have your Apple Watch, even when it's on the charger, have the screen stay on so you can use it as an alarm clock. Yes, you can use it as an alarm clock, but in order to tell the time, say you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and want to know what time it is, you can't just, like every other frickin' alarm clock in the world, roll over and look at the time. You have to reach over and tap the watch screen, or as someone suggested, bang your nightstand, which is a stupid thing to suggest. The other thing that's completely ignored, and maybe it's only because single nerds developed this, Melissa is on the other side of me. So what if she wants to roll over and see the time? You're saying that she has to roll over, cross me, tap on the iPhone screen? No, that's just stupid. It's not going to happen. The other issue with using your Apple Watch as a nighttime watch or nighttime alarm clock or bedside clock is there's no way to dim the brightness of the Apple Watch. So at night, you've got this. So at night, you're sleeping and you wake up and I wonder what time it is. And you reach out and tap your Apple Watch and this bright light hits you in the eyes. It's just going to be at full brightness. It's like, I'm up now. I don't want to be up, but I'm up now. MacMan says nightstand mode. Yes, but nightstand mode, the watch face still turns off after a period of time. I want it to stay on so you can just look over and see what time it is. Or I can look over. We're all cuddly. It's cold here, so we're all cuddled up with the bed, the blankets up over our faces. I don't want to have to reach out and tap this thing. It's just ridiculous. Why hasn't Apple thought of a fix for this? It makes this little thing fairly useless as a little alarm clock. I love it. Thanks, Doug Hennessy. It's very cool. It's very cute. But it's not going to be of any use to me as an alarm clock. Stupid. You're still mad at me, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Is there something you'd like to say?
What are you going to do with that little thing now?
Nothing.
Oh.
I can't use it in any way that's functional.
Mm-hmm.
It's cute and I'll keep it. I'm obviously not going to throw it away. Why? Do you have suggestions?
I think you should put it over by the zip straps.
Jesus. What is wrong with you? You're so petty. In interesting yet sad news, Opportunity was declared dead today. Well, it sounds like a metaphor, but it's not. Do you know about this?
No.
The Opportunity Mars rover, which we put on
Opportunity what, sorry?
Mars rover.
Oh, yes, I know what the opportunity
Which
is.
we put on Mars 15 years ago.
Yeah.
It was supposed to last for 90 days. It lasted for 15 years. It traveled 26 miles around the planet. It was only supposed to go half a mile. This little device, computer, whatever you want to call it, outlasted anything that we could possibly have expected it to last. And it did such wonderful little work. This is a great quote. Louis Peitzman says, "I'm sorry, I just found out the last message sent by the Mars rover was, my battery is low and it's getting dark. So now I have to spend the rest of the day watching Wall-E and sobbing." What a sad, because what happened? Do you know what happened? Last June, there was a dust storm on Mars, and apparently what they think happened as it got dark and the Mars rover sent that message that the dust covered its solar panels, and because it couldn't get solar light, its batteries eventually died. And scientists had hoped that by now maybe wind would knock the dust off the panel or something would have happened. But today at 1 o'clock, they officially declared the Opportunity rover dead, unfortunately. But it's what a wonderful...
Let's see, Opportunity and the...
Spirit was the other one.
No, there was a different one, too.
There's another one now, yes. But there was two. Opportunity and Spirit were the two that were sent at the same time.
Oh, I didn't think
Spirit stopped in 2010. But Opportunity... And the other great thing about this was that Opportunity, and I think Spirit, too, had really interesting Twitter feeds, too. They were funny, they were interesting, they were educational, and so they're very personalized kind of things. So the other wonderful aspect of this was that last Tuesday night, scientists at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory sent their last message to Opportunity, and it said it was the Billie Holiday song "I'll Be Seeing You" that closed with the lines, "I'll find you in the morning sun, and when the night is new, I'll be looking at the moon, but I'll be seeing you." So that's the farewell message they sent to the Mars rover. I love the idea that at some point in the future, human beings are going to go to Mars, and we're going to find Opportunity and Spirit. And as I said in the loop when I wrote this story, I hope there's a fitting tribute to these little guys. Someone posted a really neat graphic, and they showed that the space that Opportunity was in for like 10 meters around it was enclosed in a dome. The rest of Mars was a lush green, verdant landscape. We had terraformed Mars, but they left the space around Opportunity for 10 meters in the original form and just left Opportunity there. That was that was XKCD. So yeah, hopefully we'll have a fitting tribute to Opportunity when.
I have to tell Rory because we made an incredible model of Mars years ago, and we had the opportunity.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah,
cool.
We put them on it. Oh, yeah, it
cool.
was amazing. He got very high marks for that.
And congratulations to folks at
Mons and all that.
Congratulations to the folks at NASA for keeping this thing alive for well beyond its anticipated date. I mean, it was supposed to last for 90 days.
Well, that's
and they
like
kept it going for 15 years.
It's like the Jupiter probe or whatever it was, kept going and going and going and going.
And the Voyager probes, same thing. So,
yeah.
But yeah, it was a little sad when they officially declared it to have been passed on. Folks, later on the show, we're going to talk about action shots with your iPhone and how hard it is to get them, but how you can do a little bit of work and get them yourself. We're also going to be talking to our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com about Angela Ahrendts leaving. Also going to talk about the rumors of Apple new subscriber things and other stuff. All that coming up and more. This is Your Mac Life. Welcome back, folks. Thank you guys very much for joining me here this Wednesday evening. Joined, as always, in our phone room by our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. How you doing, Jim?
What rumors?
I need some of your
Hi.
I need some of your advice.
Oof.
At the very beginning of the show, I called my wife Lisa. What do I do?
Well, there's a couple of things you can do.
Okay.
You either find the nearest bridge
Yes.
and jump off of it,
Fair.
or find the nearest gun.
Well, it's Canada, so I'm going to have to go with the bridge.
Yeah, well, whatever it takes.
God.
I mean, there are no other choices here.
That's right.
I mean,
There really aren't.
I mean, you can look for them if you want, but I'm sure the wonderful listeners of the show gave you basically the same advice that I just gave
Just
you.
a little hint to the gentleman out there: never call your wife by your ex-wife's name. It's just nothing good comes of it.
That's not good.
It's just incredibly stupid. You shouldn't even remember your ex's name around your wife. It should never even get into your brain.
I'm never gonna have a wife again. So.
Anyway, we missed the last week's show, but before then, we heard the news from Apple, surprising news from Apple, that the senior vice president for retail operations, both online and physical retail, Angela Ahrendts, was leaving the company, ostensibly to go traveling, to visit her kids in London, her grown children in London, and just basically to enjoy the fruits of all her long, hard labor. Was this surprising to you as well as the rest of us?
It was surprising to me, and I really don't understand. I mean, unless she had the 5-year plan,
Yeah.
Get your cash and get out.
Yep.
I don't understand this.
Really?
I really don't, because I mean, the other option here is maybe that she just wasn't cutting it, and Tim forced her out.
See, now that's an interesting point of view, and I've heard that from others, but there is no real evidence of that. There's no reason. The stores, as far as we can tell, weren't underperforming. The stores weren't doing poorly from a sales point of view, and she had nothing to do with sales. That wasn't her job. It was other people whose job it is to make sales. So to me, that doesn't seem like a good enough reason.
Okay, then throw this into the mix. Who did they replace her with?
Deirdre O'Brien, the head of HR at the company.
Okay. And Deirdre has 30 years experience with Apple.
Yes.
So they replaced their second retail VP that they've had since Tim took over.
No. Oh, since Tim. Yes, yes.
With somebody that has the Apple cultural experience.
True.
And it could be argued that that's what Apple's been missing in retail, that Apple culture. I mean, yes, the stores are fancy and the stores are, they're all glass and they've got this wonderful stuff. But is that Apple? And maybe Angela just couldn't get her head around Apple. It would appear to me that if Angela left under the terms that she says that she left, that Apple would be on the hunt for another retail expert from, I don't know, name a big retail company.
Sure, yeah.
And that's the one who would come in and take over. But they didn't do that. Instead, they got a longtime Apple vet to take over.
Yes.
And I think that is to put some of the Apple back in the Apple stores.
And, by the way, someone who was there when both John Browett, who Tim Cook hired and was a complete disaster, and Angela Ahrendts was hired originally. Deirdre didn't just fly in. She's been there for 30 years. She was there before Tim Cook was. She worked with Cook, both in operations and worked with Ron Johnson with the original implementation of the Apple Store. So that being the case, why wasn't she tapped for the job after Johnson left or after Browett left? Why does it take their third choice?
No, I don't. I look at this more as them trying the professional retail person.
Yeah.
And twice now it hasn't worked. I mean, Browett was a moron from the beginning. He wanted to make the Apple Store into a dollar store.
Yes.
You know, and that's just not going to work. And, you know, Angela, she kept on with what the Apple stores were doing, but there was no Apple in there. I mean, that's a very subjective thing, but that's why I think it happened.
Certainly, if you read online or watched some of the forums
you don't
online,
have to read online. I just told you.
You just told me. You're right. The rank and file Apple employees weren't gigantic fans of hers. There was a lot of behind the scenes complaints. Apparently, her videos that she posted on Mondays were mocked by frontline Apple employees. They may not have been happy with them. Externally, a lot of folks are unhappy with the stores, and ironically enough, it's because they're too busy, which is a problem that other stores, Microsoft et al., would love to have. But that has nothing to do with her. She can't build stores faster than they can build stores. They can't fix the overcrowding problem, can they?
Well, I mean, they have, I think, tried to fix the overcrowding problem. But as you said, this is a problem that every retailer in the world would love to have.
Yes.
But, you know, if you look at some of the things that they've done in the past by allowing you to go on to the app and make an appointment with the retail staff instead of showing up and seeing that it's, you know, backed out the door.
Yeah.
So they have done some things to try and help that. I'm not sure what you do in a situation like that. I mean, no matter what Apple store you go to, it's always busy.
Yep.
And, you know, the ones that I go to, if I need an adapter or something like that, you know, I'll roll in. And the truth is, I'm in and out in no time.
Yeah.
So that's what you want.
Yeah, I think the what's his name? Ben Lovejoy over at 9 to 5 Mac, obviously a frickin' moron, said the simple solution to the problem with the Apple stores, the overcrowding problem, is simply build more stores. Well, it's not the way Apple works. First of all, Apple simply can't expand the physical stores they've already got. There are stores on either side of them, and those stores have their own leases and their own desires for space, and Apple can't just push them out of the way. Sure, they could probably throw insane amounts of money at them, but that's not what Apple does. The other, as he called it, and granted, Ben Lovejoy did say this is a radical solution, but this is, he says, and I quote, a potential radical solution will be to change the role of the Apple stores. Actually cease selling things in its stores. This guy's solution to the Apple store overcrowding is for Apple to stop selling things in their stores.
Well, you know, just turn the lights off and go home. That's work.
Just the dumbest, if nothing else, it immediately makes me think that Ben Lovejoy is 20 years old and has not been around for a long time, because those of us old-timers remember when the Apple stores first opened up, there was a bunch of stores called Gateway. And Gateway had thousands. They had many more stores than Apple did. They had stores everywhere. They had standalone stores in the middle of parking lots, for Christ's sake. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah, Gateway.
And Gateway, that was their model. Their model was you would come in, look at all the cool stuff, order it, and then Gateway would ship it to you X numbers of days or weeks later. And it was a complete and utter failure.
Well, and remember that when Gateway started shutting down its stores, just shuttering retail altogether, was the year that Apple opened up its stores.
That's right. Yeah.
So the first store in what's that place out east?
Virginia. It was
Virginia.
Can't remember the name of the store, but yeah.
Yeah. So, and analysts were just aghast that Apple would open up retail because Gateway couldn't make it work. Well, there's a reason Gateway couldn't make it work.
Yeah. It was a dumb idea.
It was dumb.
What would your solution to the Apple stores be? How would you solve the problem if you could?
If I were Tim, I'd just cash out and go to Hawaii. I'd have so much Heineken, I would just be surrounded by Heineken.
Walt Mossberg wrote, I have nothing against Ahrendts, but I never understood the town square store concept or today at Apple. It's not like Apple stores were dumps before her arrival. They were already very nice, and they've offered classes and activities forever. Yeah, the today at Apple thing is just putting more lipstick on what they were already doing. The Apple, again, for us old timers, we remember when Apple had theaters in the back of the store, and you would go in and sit down. They had a podium. I had taught at a couple of them, and they had a podium, and you could sit down at these benches and get taught various things. So today at Apple isn't any kind of radical or hugely interesting thing, but the town square, I think, is entirely an idea of Ahrendts, and I don't think it was a failure as an idea. I disagree with Uncle Walt in that part. I don't think it's a bad thing that Apple was attempting this public-private space kind of idea. Do you?
Well, see, here's the thing. Apple was looking at its stores to be some kind of a destination.
Yes.
I think customers look at their stores as a place to go buy product.
Some customers do, sure.
So in that way, have you ever gone to an Apple store and just sat around and drank coffee and talked to friends? And
not to friends. I've gone to the Apple store to show it off to people who'd never been there.
No. That's different. Don't be doing that. That's completely different.
Not just to hang out.
Well, that's what the town square is all about.
Yeah.
You go and listen to a local musician, and no, unless you're serving beer, no, I'm going somewhere else to listen to a musician.
That's right.
So you get what I'm saying.
Yep.
I mean, the fact that Apple wants the store to be a destination doesn't mean it's going to be a destination, and I don't think that it was. I don't think that's how people view the Apple store. So
Apple has created a new title for the incoming head of retail, Deirdre O'Brien. She's now the vice president of retail plus people, which I assume means that she's holding on to her nominal HR position. In 18 months, do you think she will still be the plus people VP?
From what I gather, the plus people or the people thing was something new. Anyway, I mean, she was in HR and she, did this stuff. So I'm not sure if plus people will be there or not, or if it'll matter. I don't see this as her being stretched too thin, and I don't think Apple does either.
See, I do. I don't think a company the size of Apple, with the focus that Apple has, I don't think you can have someone who's both the VP of retail and human resources. I think you've got to have two separate people.
No, she's the VP of people. That's different than VP of human resources. The VP of people, I don't think, needs the same amount of attention as a VP of human resources.
You don't think that the VP of people and human resources is the same thing?
It is, but I think it's also different.
Oh, geez, come on. Seriously, you're going to try that?
No, I do.
You pull
really
that crap
do.
on your podcast, not here, pal.
Hey, back down. You just take a step back from that mic. No, I really do. I think in Apple's way of thinking, the VP of people is something higher title wise, but lower work wise than what a VP of HR would be.
Possibly, yeah.
So I don't think that it's either a conflict, and I don't think that it's something that would split her time that much.
Yeah.
I mean, the big question is, what do they want from her for retail?
I think a bigger
That's
question.
the big question.
I think a bigger question is, what can she do for retail? I mean, retail feels like it's its own oil tanker and cannot be turned by anyone. I mean, this snowball is going down the hill. There's not. I don't see how they can do more than what they're already doing when it comes to retail. If your problem,
but it depends on what they want to do.
True. Okay.
Do they want to completely change retail like they have been trying to do them today at Apple and some of these things?
Yeah.
Or do they want to put, Apple back in Apple retail? And what would that entail? If solving the problem of too many people at Apple retail is like trying to solve the problem of too many people at WDC.
Yeah, exactly.
There is no solution
That's
for
right.
that problem.
Yeah.
So you can't build stores on every corner. It's not a Starbucks.
Yep. Yeah, what I find interesting is what Apple sees as whatever issues they are trying to solve with Apple retail, and what Apple thinks is the solution. Now, they're not going to tell us that. This is all supposition. We're all guessing at this kind of stuff, but I find it very interesting to see. I'm not as pessimistic as you are as to why Angela Ahrendts left. I think, did you get that beer bottle? Did you break anything?
You know what? I've figured out over the last 20 years?
What's that?
I drink beer so much faster when I'm talking to you than I do at any other time.
And do you understand why that is?
I mean, you just piss me off so much most of the time that I'm drinking and drinking and drinking. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, you and my wife, interestingly enough, that's interesting. You both have the same problem. With me.
Oh, your wife, Lisa?
Yeah, oh, dude, shh. She might be listening. Come on now.
Oh, huh.
God, yeah, dick. It was announced. It was announced a couple of days ago that Amazon is merging, as they call it, with Eero, maker of home Wi-Fi hardware. Now, I know you bought a set of mesh routers. What brand did you buy? Did you buy Eero?
I actually have Eero and I have Google Wi-Fi.
Both under the bridge. It's interesting. Why do you think you need that under the bridge?
Well, I didn't set up the Eero yet. Now I'm not sure that it will. But if I've set up the Google one, then, what difference does it make?
That's the first thing most people say is that this is the Gillette commercial all over again. People are throwing away their Gillette razors. People are throwing away their Eero routers because of Amazon buying it. What was your?
I don't think they will.
What do you think what are your concerns now that Amazon owns Eero?
Well, clearly, if you look at Amazon, we all know that they take every little piece of information that we have, and that is a concern because are they going to open up Eero and check all the packets in there? Yeah. So not only do they get our web browsing when we're on Amazon site, but they also get it no matter where we are because we're using Eero.
Exactly.
So that is a big concern. But I have said this before. I'll say it again. I don't think it matters because people will still buy them. And people may buy them even more because Amazon has them. Because the average user trusts Amazon.
Yeah.
The average user buys stuff from Amazon every week.
Yeah.
I'm just, a couple of days ago, I bought stuff on Amazon.
Yep. Yeah, I did this morning.
I know that all the stuff about Amazon, but yeah, I bought it because I can either go out or I can say, I'll just buy it on Amazon.
Yep, that's right.
And I do. And, tomorrow stuff will arrive. I'm all good, but Is it wrong? Well, sure. But Amazon has built their name into a trusted brand.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that I actually tried to explain to Dave on the podcast this morning, which hasn't been posted yet. But I think people trust Amazon more than they do Facebook, because with Facebook, you know that there's something wrong and you know that you're the product.
Yeah.
There is no other product there. But when you go to Amazon, you order something, you get something to your door. Well, Amazon did a great job. They still tracked you the same way that Facebook does.
Yeah.
But you got a product to your door. You paid somebody some money, and there it is. So it almost feels like you're not the product. The difference is you still are the product, but because you bought something from them, you're even more of a product.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one is no better than the, well, no, I have to say Facebook's probably the worst of the lot. But Google, Facebook, and Amazon, I think we would agree, are the three biggest data collectors, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, are people going to ditch their Gmail? No. Are they going to ditch Google Docs? No. Are they going to ditch buying stuff from Amazon and drive to the store? No. Are they going to ditch Facebook? Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. So that's where I see a difference here with Eero. I mean, the famous, or the infamous thing just from yesterday was we don't plan on changing Eero's terms of use yet.
Yes, exactly. That's right.
You know,
we haven't read them all yet, but yeah, we might.
You know, as soon as Jeff gets to work, we might change it.
Exactly.
Jeff's fighting with National Enquirer right now, so you know he's indisposed. But yeah, he'll probably rewrite that.
Yeah.
So, does it actually matter? No, it doesn't. And whether they sell the same amount or more, I don't think they're going to sell less.
Yeah.
I really don't. Whether they sell the same amount or more, Amazon has a plan, and they're going to put that in, and that's going to be it.
I think the other aspect of it too is that Amazon hasn't gotten caught being skeezy the way Facebook has on a regular basis. You know what I mean?
Facebook gets caught every other day.
Exactly. I think that's part of why average people trust Facebook to whatever degree they do. It's only because Facebook hasn't done anything remarkably frickin' stupid like Facebook has on a regular basis. I think that's where they're getting away with this PR thing of people going, oh, I trust Amazon. But as you say, they're as bad as Facebook, just in different ways, and aren't getting caught by it.
Well, in different ways, and I honestly believe that people feel like they're getting something from Amazon.
Yeah.
I ordered this from Amazon and I got it.
Yep.
Well, okay. That's great.
Good enough.
And the next time I show up to the website, they let me reorder that thing that I just ordered, and they show me other things that are like the thing I ordered. And how do you think they do that?
Exactly. Because they're tracking you.
I mean, but I really think that people get a feeling of satisfaction that they completed this online order and something showed up to their door, a physical product.
Yep. So
that's where I think the big difference is. Google, as much as everything is free, we know that they're tracking us. You know, that famous job thing where they say there's a job opening at Google, don't bother applying, we already know everything about you. You know?
Yeah.
But again, are people going to stop using Gmail and Docs and the Excel spreadsheet thing? And no, they're not.
That's right.
So out of the three, what can people give up? Well, that would be Facebook. But if Amazon now comes out, I mean, look at the Amazon. I don't know what the Ping and the Echo and whatever those things are called.
Yeah.
People buy them up because they're like $50, $100.
Yeah.
People buy that stuff up. Well, you need a new router? Amazon has one, and we make it. It's Eero. Come and get it. And they will lap that stuff up.
I think the only problem that they're going to have is convincing the average user that Eero is a device they want and need. Because most people, as I was saying at the top of the show, most people like my wife get their router from their ISP, and as long as it works after a fashion, they never think about the problems of dead spots or things like that, the problem that Eero solves. So Amazon's got to find a way to convince you that your present setup isn't working, and Eero can fix that problem.
Okay. Did people have a problem talking to their fridge before? No, because you didn't talk to your fridge. But now that people want to talk to their fridge, they go to Amazon.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that they're going to have a problem at all, because whether it's an older person or a young person, an older person is going to, finally get an iPad, and they're going to say, I like to sit out back in my yard, but I don't get any internet. And their kid is going to come over, their kid being like 40 is going to come over and say, well, Amazon has this thing, we'll fix it all up.
Yep.
And that's going to buy them. And then they're going to buy one. And, I don't think they're going to have a problem at all. I think it's going to sell like hotcakes, and I think it's going to sell even more.
It's going to be interesting to see how this shakes itself out. Speaking of shaking things out, I know you know him possibly better than I do, but Frank Casanova, a longtime Apple executive, has been tapped to be the first head of marketing for AR. I said to Frank on Facebook, it's kind of funny that people think that Apple's getting serious about AR now just because you're the new head of marketing. Do you think we should read into this a whole lot, or is this mostly an internal move of Apple's?
Well, I think that with most moves in Apple, you should read something into it. Ahrendts, you should read something into that. Frank, you should read something into that too.
Yeah.
Frank is a very smart man.
Yes.
And he's very, very good at what he does. And he's been there a long time. So if Apple moved Frank from where he was to where he is now, which has happened, then that's a big thing.
Yeah.
And we should read something into that. They are definitely serious. They're not going to take somebody with Frank's experience or with Deidre O'Brien's experience and move them into a position of being out front unless they're serious about what they're doing. Now, if they made Frank the head of marketing for its networking products, then I'd say,
I think Frank would take the hint.
you're now in charge of airports.
That's right. I think Frank will be setting up his retirement fund pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think so. So when somebody like Frank or Deidre or some of these long-time Apple people are put into these positions, you really should think about where Apple's going in that.
Yeah.
So to me, that was a big marker to say, oh, really? And I did the same thing when they announced Deidre for retail.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It certainly is. And like you said, Apple doesn't do these things just for whims or just because Frank got bored in one part of his job and he wanted something more interesting. This is, I don't think there's any doubt that Apple is interested in AR, Tim Cook has said as much, that this is something that the company wants to focus on and will focus on going forward. I think this is just one more step. Apple makes baby steps. We all know this. Apple doesn't jump into things whole hog and do the Google moonshot stuff. Slow and steady is the way Apple wants to do things.
And that's the way they always do it.
Yep. And well, that's the way they're always going to do it. So, this is a 2-year plan. This is a 18-month plan.
No. Yeah. I mean, I would go even longer.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Because that far out. Interesting, you would think it'd be even further out than that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, these are big plans, I think.
Speaking of big plans, Apple's got them apparently with their new subscriber service, rumored subscriber service. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that they've discovered some of the terms for Apple's subscription news service. The biggest one is a 50-50 split, which, according to major publishers, this has got them saying Apple is greedy and those kinds of things. Do you believe it would be a 50-50 split? I don't believe it for a second.
No?
No, I think I wrote on the Inside Apple newsletter, that feels like a game of telephone tag. Someone's gotten some information wrong there. I can't imagine Apple would, with the softness, shall we say, in the media publishing industry, I can't imagine Apple would say to publishers, we're going to take a huge chunk of the money that you were hoping to get out of this service and expect these people to get on board.
Okay, look at it the other way. You've got 1 billion users, and you're looking at an industry that's in a major downturn.
Yep.
And you go to them and say, hey, we'll give you access to our 1 billion users, and we'll give you this much money each month. You want it or not?
But the publishers know that other attempts at things like this, including the texture, which is what Apple is basing this on, the texture service, have been abject failures. People generally don't. You may have 1 billion users, but you're not going to have 1 billion users of your subscription news service. You might have a couple tens of thousands, but I can't see this being anywhere near the popularity of what Apple may be portraying this to the publishers and saying, hey, you're going to get 50% of a really huge pie. The publishers are saying you want 50% of a really, really tiny pie, and we can't afford that.
Well, I don't know. I think, remember, a lot of this backlash is going to be coming from the music side. So when Apple went to music publishers in the early 2000s and said, hey, your music is being stolen, we're going to offer you a way to get some money from it, and we're going to open up this store. Yep. And they said, hell yes, just get us some money.
But not all the publishers came on board with them.
Well, most of them. Come on. Most of them came on board. Most of them.
Okay.
So Apple at that point was able to just take over the music industry.
Yeah.
And there's been people that have tried to stop them from taking over the video industry, and maybe that worked because they didn't open up a streaming service, and everybody has a streaming service these days.
Yep.
So maybe that did work a little bit. But now we're at news. I don't know. Is news the next one where they're just fighting back and saying no?
Yeah.
And there's something else here too. Apple doesn't share information.
Yes.
With publishers.
Yes.
And that could be a big thing.
That was my next point, is these publishers are also not going to be getting data from these subscribers. They're not going to be getting where they're going to be able to target subscribers with other offers. They're not going to be able to get the analytics that these people want for advertising and those kind of things. It's basically Apple's going to give them a lump sum, and this is all the money you're going to get out of these customers. The problem, I think, is from the customer point of view. How many more of these streaming services are we going to be trying to fit into our monthly budget before we all just throw our hands up and go, screw it, I can't be bothered. There's also rumors that in April, Apple's going to announce their video streaming service. So now you've got video streaming from, 10 different companies to get all the stuff you want. You're going to have a new subscription service, maybe a music, and you've got a music subscription service, whether it be Apple Music or Spotify, and all these $10 a month, $30 a month things are going to add up to a certain point, and I think it's going to break the consumer's back fairly quickly, where they're just going to get, screw it, I just can't buy it. I can't afford it. I don't want to keep track of all this stuff.
But you know what? That's where Apple has a leg up, because they already have credit cards of hundreds of millions of people.
Yeah.
And I think when people say, you know what, I've had enough, that they're going to stick with Apple, because I have subscriptions through Apple. It's paid every month.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about these emails that you're talking about. Here's a deal for you, and here's this, and here's that. I don't have to worry about that, because mine is through Apple. And I have my Netflix account through Apple, and I have all these other accounts through Apple, and I don't get those annoying emails.
Yeah.
So if Apple puts together a package, they're going to have a package that includes everything. So you want news, video content, whatever video service they come up with, and music, here's your deal. Yeah. It's $20 a month for everything. One payment, you get it all. Okay, well then, great. I can cancel my subscription to Wall Street Journal and to the New York Times, because they're part of this, so they must agree with it.
Yeah.
And off I go. Now I have one payment, and I get everything.
As long as that payment is psychologically reasonable. You know what I mean?
I think it'd be more reasonable than trying to get them all separately, and that's where Apple's got a leg up.
Yeah. I think it's gonna be a hard sell. It's gonna be a hard sell for the average person who isn't as steeped in this stuff as the listeners of Your Mac Life and you and I are.
No, see, that's where I disagree. I think it's going to be easier, because people are going to look and say, well, I get everything, and it's right there. One little payment, and I'm done.
But it's going to be everything at $75 a month.
Well, I mean, Apple's not going to how much it'll cost.
But Apple's not going to be. This is not going to be a cheap service. This is not going to be $9.99 all you can eat kind of stuff. Apple's going to charge a premium for this premium service.
Well, no, Apple won't gouge you.
Give your head a shake. Yes, they will. I saw this tweet today that just made me laugh out loud. This guy, obviously, I guess he's 12 and doesn't really understand how capitalism works. He says, Apple has $285 billion in cash. The new $200 Apple Pencil 2 doesn't come with a replacement tip. The new $150 iPad Pro Smart Case isn't leather. The pencil should be bundled rather than an additional accessory. So he thinks that Apple has $285 billion in cash, and they should just give it away to him. How do you think they got $285 billion? It's by nickel and diming us to death.
Well, I think that's kind of rude.
I understand his point. Yes, maybe Apple should throw some extras our way, but they're making money on us anyway. Why should they give us stuff for free?
Well, they never give stuff for free. And
exactly.
Those types of people will never understand that, of course, it doesn't come with some kind of an extra point. And yes, the case isn't leather. And yeah, I mean.
And if you want a leather case, you can go buy the other case. Pat and Quill makes beautiful monogrammed leather cases for your iPad Pro that are cheaper than Apple's. So stop your whining.
Yes, I agree with you 100%.
Jesus. What are you going to do? We're going to move on now to National Enquirer and Jeff Bezos. What are you going to do when I release the photos I have of you in the similar situation?
Well, I'm going to laugh because people are going to be throwing up all over the world.
Isn't this the weirdest story you've heard all week?
You know what? I give credit to Bezos.
Yeah, so do I. So do I.
For standing up
Yep.
to the National Enquirer. Oh boy! I mean, let's face it. That took some balls for Bezos to do, and good for him for doing it.
Although I will say that it cracks me up that this all started because I don't know if folks are familiar with this because it's just gossip that Jeff Bezos and his wife were getting divorced. And according to Bezos, the reason why they're getting divorced is because someone leaked his texts to his mistress. No, Jeff, that's not why you're getting the divorce. All right? Let's get that clear, Sparky. It's not because your texts were leaked. It's because you were leaking into somebody else, okay? Let's just be clear about that. But the idea of him going, you know what? It's just a penis. It's just my penis. I don't care. Post the picture. See if I care. That, to me, is a wonderful, refreshing idea. I hope and wish more people could do that. And just say, you know what? It's just a penis. I'm not going to hang it out in public, but me and the person I care about were trading these pictures. They got out there. Oh, well. You can't blackmail me over this.
Right.
Now, I'm the first one to admit I'm proud of the fact that a camera has never been pointed at my penis, nor will it ever be pointed at my penis. But if the pictures got out there, I'd be like, yeah, it's a dick. What do you care?
Right. Well, I think that Bezos, I believe that Bezos's goal right now is to put the National Enquirer out of business.
I agree.
And they should be scared shitless right now because he has the money and the power to put them out of business. And I think that's what his end goal is here. Just like, the Hulk Hogan thing that he did.
With Docker,
to put out the National Enquirer out of business, I think that's... Now, I don't know if you read today, but there was some... they're in huge financial trouble. I mean, Bezos could personally buy all of their debt and just close them down. But I don't think he wants that. That'd be too easy. I think he wants them to squirm and finally admit we're done. We've got nothing left because they have borrowed almost $1 billion that they're already defaulting on.
Yep.
So,
I think what Bezos's ultimate plan certainly would be if I was in this position was to drag this on as long as possible, drag the owners of editors of whoever of the National Enquirer through the mud, although they're already pretty muddy, sue them in both civil and criminal court, have them convicted of various things, and then shut them down. Yeah, he could shut them down tomorrow, but let's drag this out as long as he possibly can. Because if nothing else, it distracts everybody from the ugly divorce I'm going to have over the next 6 to 18 months. So, I got no problem with Jeff Bezos. And I have nothing really against the National Enquirer. It's a tabloid. They're sleazy. Anybody who reads it is a moron. So I got no problem with them directly. But this kind of stuff that they've been doing before, everyone says this is not the first time they've done this. This is if this was your first kick at this can, you wouldn't start off with Jeff Bezos. You would have done it to someone lower level. This is something that's happened before that the National Enquirer has done in many different ways, and I hope that Bezos just crushes them.
Well, he will crush them. I think that they looked at him as an easy target.
Yep.
And, God help them. I mean, he is coming for them. And even with half of his net worth,
not even half.
From what I read, the total debt for the entire company, not just the National Enquirer, but the entire company,
AMI
is about $1.5 billion.
Yep.
So that being the case, he could take them on easily. I mean, you could just ruin them. Done.
I know you saw, we'll wrap up on this one. I know you saw this story I posted up in the Loop. It came out this past weekend. The 1990s Captain Marvel websuit. How much did that website make you want to throw up?
You know what? I didn't look at it in the 90s. So, you know, I could care less about Captain Marvel. And we are not ending on that, by the way. I have something else.
Okay. But it's very funny for the young folks nowadays. If you want to see what we had to go through when we were in the 90s, when it came to a website, even back in the 90s, we knew this was butt ugly. But there wasn't anything you could do about it. It was just going to be ugly. And I scroll through this site and I see all this stuff. It's just like, yeah, I remember that. I remember that. I remember that. Oh, it's just so painful to look at.
So there's one more thing that we need to talk about.
Yep. Shoot. Fire away.
The lawyer looking after Apple employees to make sure that they didn't do insider trading got charged with insider trading.
Of all the guys who should know better.
I laughed my butt off when I read that. I was sitting in the chair giggling like a little schoolgirl that this guy did insider trading when he's the guy to make sure that Apple employees don't do insider trading.
He would actually on a regular basis send out an email to employees that said, remember, trading is not permitted whether or not in an open trading window if you possess or have access to material information that has not been disclosed publicly. And yet he was caught on multiple occasions doing exactly that.
Just absolutely stunning.
Stunning in its stupidity.
And this, I mean, this actually happened.
Yeah, he is officially the dumbest guy on the planet right now.
Officially.
I mean, I just don't know how you could be the head of compliance, SEC compliance at Apple, and somehow think you can get away with this.
Well,
what part of your brain's broken to make you think that I'm smarter than the SEC because I know all the rules, what I can do and what I can't do, and yet be so obvious? I'd love to know how the SEC found out about this. I know they track this kind of stuff, but how did they know that he had material information that the general public didn't know? I think that's going to be interesting going forward.
It's funny, and to think that time he did it, and from what you posted, it seems this happened in 2015 and 16.
Yes,
but the first time he cashed in on this, he must have thought, "Wow, that was easy."
That's right.
You know, 3 years on, you know, now we're sitting here. You're in prison.
Well, and the other part of it too, and I think this is a little bit instructive. He didn't actually save that much money. They say that for trading in 2015-16, Leavoff profited and avoided losses of approximately $382,000. Now, this guy was the senior director of corporate law at Apple. I got to believe he's making, before bonuses, at least $500,000 a year. That's probably about what he would do. And then you add bonuses, he's probably making at least $1 million a year. So
I don't think it would be that much, but yeah, okay.
He takes this risk in order to save $382,000. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't seem to be worth it. You lose your job. Apple was suspicious of him last April, fired his ass last September. Now you're probably going to, at the very least, go to a cushy country club jail for 6 months to a year. You're going to pay $1 million in fines. And guess what? You're never working as a lawyer ever again.
Ever.
There's no chance of someone hiring you ever again as a lawyer. You destroyed your career.
And then you get dumbasses like you and I laughing at you.
Exactly. And that just can't be worth it. That just cannot be worth it, dude. You know, it always cracks me out when we see people who are in these positions, and it's almost always a function of them thinking they're smarter than whoever it is they're up against. That's the beauty of many of these mastermind criminals. They always believe they are smarter than the rules or the law or the officials in the SEC or the FBI or whatever it might be.
These guys from the SEC look at these trades and say, "Huh, look at this guy.
Yeah, look at this mook."
Let's let him do it again just for kicks.
Exactly. Hey,
I
Jerry,
mean, we can get him right now, but
hey, Jerry, I bet you lunch he does this again. Nah, you're not that dumb. Holy shit, look. You know? Shit, I owe you lunch.
They take office bets and over-under on whether Leavoff will do this again. I mean, come on.
And this is one of the reasons why, folks, when it happens every 3 or 4 months in the Mac tech media, it's an easy story for a lot of these websites to write about how, you know, so-and-so sold this much stock in Apple, and someone always, usually it's CNET, intimates that, oh, the company's in trouble. So-and-so sold $3 million in stock. The company must be going out of business. No, it's because by law, they have to say in advance when they want to sell stock. They can't buy and sell stock the way you and I do. They have to do it like usually 3 or 4 months in advance in order to avoid this kind of SEC stuff. And wait. And if they take the hit, they have to take the hit. That's the downside of working for one of these companies. You may know this insider info, but you can't use it. And you can't obviously pass it on to your friends.
There are blackout periods and all that kind of stuff where they can't trade.
And they all know what they are, when they are. This is not a secret to anybody. This is not some sort of big conspiracy or anything else like that. This is the way it happens, and it's not that big a deal. But people still want to write these stories because they're easy to write, and they're simpletons. That's pretty much the easy way to describe it.
Pretty much it.
Folks, been talking to Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. He has his own podcast called The Dalrymple Report. I assume it'll be up, the latest issue will be up tomorrow, Jim, or later tonight?
Tomorrow. You
can check it out at loopinsight.com. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Shawn.
Talk to you next week. See you, buddy.
Bye.
Thanks very much for Jim for being on the show tonight. When we come back, we're going to talk about how to take action shots with your iPhone. Not necessarily something that you think you can do. The iPhone isn't known for action shots, but let's see if we can't find some way to help you guys figure this out. All that and much more coming up. This is Your Mac Life. Welcome back, folks. Thank you guys very much for joining me here this Wednesday evening. In our starting point photography segment for tonight's show, I was talking to somebody about the iPhone and what it can and can't do. And one of the things I always try to describe to people is this idea that you should know what your camera is capable of and shoot within, the performance envelope of your camera. So if your camera, for example, my old Nikon D50, it's a lovely little camera. I loved using it, but it's not very good in low light conditions. It does not have the sensor size. It doesn't have the ISO. So I stopped using it in low light. I wouldn't try to force the camera to do something that it couldn't do. One of the knocks on the iPhone is that because of the very, very small sensor and the very, very small lens, it doesn't take in a lot of light. Just physically, that little hole there just can't let a lot of light in. Action shots almost always require quite a bit of light because the action, to freeze the action, is a function of your shutter speed. And if you have a very quick shutter speed, you need a lot of light in that very quick shutter speed. Generally, what happens with your iPhone when you are using it in the automatic mode is, say something moving really, really quickly. What will happen is the iPhone can't recognize that that thing is moving when you tap on the shutter button, when you tap on the take a picture button, and the shutter isn't fast enough to be able to freeze the action. So you end up with blur. So one of the things you've got to do with your iPhone is practice being steady, first of all. Any kind of camera movement is death to a good picture. If your camera shakes or shudders, it's going to cause blur. So when you're doing action shots, say you are shooting your kid skateboarding, and he's skateboarding down the street, you want to get a shot of him skateboarding. You've got to learn to hold your camera very steady. One of the things I always tell folks is keep your elbows in as tight as you can. Don't have your arms out here with your elbows up high, because that's not a steady platform. You're not going to get a steady shot. Keep your elbows in tight for that steady shot. Now, if you're just taking a picture of a building or something that's not moving, sure, if you want to, if it's more comfortable, have your elbows out. But if it's moving, tuck your elbows in. The other thing is, think of it as you're shooting a gun. And generally what you do when you're shooting a weapon is you have 1 foot forward, usually your left foot if you're a right-handed person, 1 foot forward in a very comfortable position, and turn at the hips, turn at your waist. So just learn to keep your butt steady or your knees steady, your feet steady, and move with your subject. That will help a lot in capturing that motion, freezing that blur. If you're moving at the same speed, or at least at the same angle as the thing that you're shooting, the kid with the skateboard, you're more likely to get a good shot, as opposed to pointing the camera here and the kid comes through the skateboard shot and you try to take the picture, it's probably going to be blurry. Because by the time you hit the shutter button and the shutter opens and closes in automatic mode, your kid's probably going to be blurry. The other thing is to try to shoot head on of the action if you can. Obviously, if you're shooting horses or race cars, you can't do that. But if it's your kid coming down the road towards you, sure, so go ahead and stand in front of the kid and get the shot of him moving towards you. I also recommend that folks use if you really want to get serious about it, use some of the other apps that you can use. The native camera app on your iPhone is perfectly okay for taking perfectly okay photos. I've taken lots of shots with the native camera app, and they've been nice shots. I've liked them. I posted them. I've showed them off. I keep them on my phone. They're good shots. But if you find yourself in the habit of or wanting to shoot more action shots, you're going to want more control over your phone than you can get with the native app. Apps like Halid, will allow you to control the shutter speed and the ISO of your camera. Now, I didn't mention one thing. We've talked in the past about the exposure triangle. Remember that, Melissa? Mm-hmm. And I turned your mic up. So I just mentioned shutter and ISO. What didn't I mention?
Light. Sorry, I wasn't listening.
She's still mad at me. What does MacMan say in the IRC chat room?
Aperture.
Aperture. The exposure triangle is aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. You can't change the aperture on your iPhone. Aperture is the size of the hole that the light comes through. If you have a DSLR and you look at the lens, it'll say f4 to f5.6, which means it's got a range between generally f4.5 at the low end to say f22 in the high end. That's the size of the hole. MacMan's, but she was saying right, light. Yeah, she's correct. That's correct.
Mm-hmm, I know.
So the iPhone doesn't allow you to control the amount of light coming in by opening and closing the shutter. If the shutter is wide open, if it's a very, very low F number, like 1, for example, then your shutter is wide open and lots of light comes in. If your shutter is at f22, a very, very high number, your shutter is your lens opening is very, very narrow and less light comes through. So luckily enough, with the iPhone it's only I think 2.8 on average. That's a fairly wide open aperture. So you can probably, with enough light, get decent aperture shots. That's the next thing you got to look for is you need light to get these shots. You need light to get this high shutter speed because the shutter is going to open very, very quickly to capture that motion. And that speed of that opening means that less light is going to be able to get in. So when you want to shoot your kid skateboarding, don't go out on a cloudy day, or don't do it under a bridge, or don't do it someplace where the light's not able to get in. Do it on a sunny day. Do it outside. Do it someplace where there's going to be lots of light that will enable you to get the shots that you're envisioning for your kid. This will also help you with the relationship between light and shutter speed. More light means your shutter speed can be lower. So it's a bright, sunny day. You can have a shutter speed of, say, 1/1000th of a second. If it's a cloudy day, maybe your shutter speed has to go down to 1/100th of a second. And those both sound very, very fast, but 1/100th of a second is actually relatively slow in the camera world. And if your kid is skateboarding past you at a fairly quick speed, 1/100th of a second in shadow or under a bridge or in cloudy conditions, you're just going to get blur. It's just not going to work very well. So, as we often say in this segment and in the classes, you've got to pay attention to light and the relationship light has to your camera. If you have low light conditions, you need to find a way to increase that light. And it can be via shutter speed. The shutter stays open longer. It can be via ISO. Your sensor becomes more sensitive to light. Or it can be via aperture. Your aperture opens up wider. On the iPhone, you can only control 2 of those things. And you generally want to avoid messing with ISO because ISO, the increase in ISO in an app like Halid or even production-wise in Snapseed will introduce noise in your photo. Those little tiny blue and green and red dots in the photo that just don't look good. So you want to figure out the relationship between light and your shutter speed and ISO, but generally only mess around with shutter speed. Again, Halid does it. I don't know of too many straight up free apps that allow you to mess around with the ISO and the shutter speeds. But if anyone does, let me know. Send me an email to Shawn at yourmaclifeshow.com to if you have any ideas for apps that are free and allow you to access shutter speed and ISO and other things. I think Halid is $4, and I guarantee you it's worth it. If you want to mess around with your camera, with your iPhone in the same kind of way you do with a DSLR, Halid's a great app to do. To do that with. So you've got good light, you've got a nice high shutter speed, 1/1000th of a second, because you're messing around with Halid. The next thing is you want to tell the camera what you're shooting. And this is something Melissa, one of the first things I taught Melissa was you want to tap your screen to tell your camera to focus on that thing, on that person, on that object. Because if you don't, as you're moving, the camera might jump off and focus on something else. If something passes close enough behind the person or in front of them, a tree branch or a car, things like that, your focus might jump over to something else. So these apps like Halid and other ones will let you lock on to that person, that thing, that object, and track it throughout the frame. That's going to be a big help. And it lets you to do your focus directly on that person. Another thing you can do is do manual focus. And I've done this when I've gone to shoot the horse racing at Hastings Park here in Vancouver. And I want to get a certain particular effect. And the effect is that I want to get a shot of, so I'm standing directly in front of the finish line at the racetrack. And I want to get this shot of the horses coming at the finish line. Well, I don't want to pan, because I don't want when you pan like that your background will be blurry because you're moving. I didn't want a blurry background. So what I did was I focused on a spot on the rail of the racetrack and knew that the horses were going to run in there, and when they hit that spot, they were going to be in focus. Monty wants to know the Halid, Halide, Halid or Halide. I'm not exactly sure how they spell, but Halide. Monty, thanks very much for asking me to spell that, because I didn't realize I wasn't saying it clearly. So the idea was that I was holding the camera steady, focused on that spot on the rail or on the ground or whatever it might be, watching the horses, and then as they started to come into frame, used burst mode. Now, I hate burst mode on the iPhone because I can't turn it off. It was really annoying that Apple did that to us. You used to be able to tap on the shutter button, and it wouldn't take the picture until you took your finger off the shutter button. So you could tap on the shutter button and wait for the thing to enter the frame, let go, take a picture. Now when you tap and hold the shutter button, you're going to get 17,000 photos. It's really annoying, Apple. Let us turn off burst mode. Poor Melissa has got 1,000 pictures when she only meant to take 2. I've heard her do it. You can hear her camera going because you shot in burst mode by accident, just because you held your finger down just for a couple of seconds. So burst mode should be turned on and off, Apple. Anyway. But in this case, burst mode is good, because what you'll do is you'll get ready to take that shot, and as soon as you see the horses not enter the frame of the camera, but get close enough that you can just see them outside the camera, hit burst mode. And then it will take a series of photos as the horses run through the frame, and one of those shots is probably going to be the shot you want. I generally hate burst mode. That's the only time I actually really use it. The other aspect for sharp action shots that I like telling people about is don't forget that you don't have to hit the big white button on the screen of your app. You can hit your volume button. Remember, your volume button also triggers your shutter, as well as if you're wearing wired headphones or earphones with a microphone so you can use them to make calls with, your volume button on your wired headphones will also act as a remote shutter. You just plug your headphones in, and when the thing comes through the frame, you can start pushing the button. I think you can hold the button down and get burst mode. Yeah, so Halide is the name of that app. And finally, one of the other tips that not a lot of people think about when it comes to shooting action shots, if you can, get down low and shoot upwards. When you shoot upwards, you're going to get sky. When you get sky, you're going to get bright. That's where all the extra light can come from. Plus, it kind of looks a cool shot. If you got a kid doing a skateboard trick, and you're down low, and he does a flippity floppity. I don't know anything about skateboarding. Flippity floppy thing with the skateboard. You'll get this really neat view of you down low, looking up at him with sky behind him, and that sky behind him gives you extra light too. So keep those tips in mind. If you have any questions, as always, send us emails to onair@yourmaclifeshow.com or to Shawn at yourmaclifeshow.com. We have gotten some emails from folks, and I appreciate you guys sending me emails, whether they be for photography or elsewhere, other things. Got an email from Don Beck. He said, I recently heard you and Melissa talking about people wearing headphones in public to keep people from bothering them. When I saw this cartoon, I couldn't help but think of you two. Hang on a second. Where did I put that cartoon? Let's see if I can't drag it. Of course I can't drag and drop it in there. And that would just be too easy, wouldn't it? God, this app pisses me off sometimes. So I can show you guys this cartoon. It says there was a woman sitting in the middle seat of an airplane. Wendy gets privacy by creating her own book covers. And her book cover says, stabbing strangers who talk to you. That would get you privacy on a plane. I can guarantee you that would definitely get you privacy on a plane. And Richard Madison says, after your discussion with Jim on a recent show, again, I got to fight with this app to get these photos in here. Oops. Sorry, I realized as I did that the no fucking audio. God damn, I hate this stuff. Okay, now is there audio? Can you guys hear me? I switch back to here. Switch back to here. You guys can hear me. Switch to here. Now they can hear me. God damn it. Wirecast has the most annoying interface when it comes to adding things. You have to add it in a certain way, and then if you don't click on the audio interface and then click on the graphic off it and then back onto it, you won't actually get graphics. So anyway, that's the thing that was sent to me. Sorry, it just throws me off. That's what the problem many of you told me about last week with regards to Jim, or a week ago, Jim's audio wasn't working properly. And it was because of this issue with Wirecast that just seems to insist on not adding the audio layer automatically. I've got audio chosen as a favorite and all. I've done all the things I'm supposed to do, and this stupid thing will not work properly. Richard Madison says, after your discussion with Jim on a recent show, I thought this T-shirt from Woot.com was relevant. Get another bygone recording medium. It's a very cute T-shirt. There's a bunch of guys excavating. A bunch of guys excavating a T-shirt. I'll show you, Melissa. Oh, God. As if it was an archaeological dig. They've discovered the... Mm-hmm. I've often wondered about that. The fact that what are archaeologists going to discover when they go through our garbage in 500 years? Will they know what it is? Will they find the equivalent of the vases of ancient Rome? And will they find, what will they find? How will they react to it? Something I've always thought was really kind of interesting. I think that's it. As always, send us emails to onair@yourmaclifeshow.com. Oh, that's right. I wanted to remind you guys, if you like email newsletters, I'm now 2 weeks into writing a newsletter for the folks at inside.com. And the newsletter goes out each weekday at around 10, 11 a.m. Pacific time. And it's basically 6 one-paragraph stories and 4 one-line stories about what might be of interest or importance in the Apple universe this past 24 hours. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe, please do. Please go to, if you like, inside.com/Apple or yml.me/InsideApple, and you can subscribe to the newsletter right then and there. I didn't know this, but it's even more important that you actually open the email. Unlike my wife.
I've opened some of them.
Now, I didn't know this. It turns out and people may not like this, they track the open rate of the email. And so I get a report each day saying, X percent of people opened your email. And I don't understand how that works. In other words, am I supposed to write a headline that makes you want to open things up? And they said, no, don't worry about it. Write the same stuff. So I don't know. And that being the case, if you don't have to write a sexy headline, why don't more people open the email? Why wouldn't everyone just open it? You signed up for it. You subscribed for the email. Why wouldn't you open it up? Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's on them and on me. The other thing is, too, if you like the email, or if you have any questions or comments or criticisms or whatever it might be, reply back to the email, because what happens is those emails then go to the whole Inside team, the bosses, the grown-ups at Inside. And what I'm trying to do is get more engagement, just get people more back and forth with the email and just making comments in general about the email. So I'd appreciate it if you guys, even if it's just a comment of I like the email or don't like the email or whatever it might be, comments always help me out. There was something else. Oh, the other thing was we are inside 6 weeks for our trip to Lisbon, Portugal, for the Starting Point Photography workshop in Lisbon, Portugal, March 21st to 30th, I think the dates are. If you want, you can still join us. You can get, actually, the TAP airline, the national airline of Portugal, has been running some really cool deals out of this U.S. in the last few days. I've seen them on Twitter. So you can still join us if you so choose. We're going to have a great time. We're going to eat great food. We're going to see amazing sights. We're going to hang out, listen to music, see beautiful blue tiles. It's fantastic. If you can't make Portugal one, the one we're doing after that is right here. We're going to do it right here in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Actually, it's over there. I think it's that way. Vancouver. Yeah, Vancouver's that way. Okay, Vancouver's that way. I have no sense of direction. I've always said and will always say Vancouver is the single most beautiful city in North America, bar none. I mean, there's just no. I will listen to no argument about that. You can't get prettier or more naturally beautiful than Vancouver. So if you come, you'll get a chance to see some of the natural beauty of this city. But I wanted to show you a little blurb, Vancouver from above, an aerial view of Vancouver. I'm going to have to cover up my wife's beautiful face here for a second, so I apologize for that. But check this out. Oh, hang on. It's just stop it. You right there, stop. Why is it only showing half the screen? Why isn't the whole screen showing? Okay. I understand. This is the I'll stop and start this as we talk about. This is shot from Stanley Park. This is the Pan Pacific Hotel and cruise ship terminal. So if you come into Vancouver on a cruise ship, you'll see this. There's another shot of the cruise ship terminal, float planes flying in. Stanley Park in the foreground, the city in the middle ground, Washington State. BC Place is there in the lower left, again, Stanley Park. We're going to do this. We're going to bike around Stanley Park when we're here. It's a beautiful spot. This is False Creek, is another beautiful place. False Creek, downtown Vancouver, North Shore Mountains. False Creek again. Off in the distance there, way off in the distance, that's Mount Baker in Washington State. So you can actually see Washington State from Vancouver. Again, Pan Pacific on the left-hand side there. BC Place is the big blue thing in the middle. Headed off to Stanley Park, the dark spot. It is, and again, if you wanted to go online to see that, it's on YouTube called Vancouver from Above. If you want to check it out yourself, but it really is I still remember I was 14 years old the first time I ever came to Vancouver, and it was the first time I'd ever seen mountains, like actual real life snow covered peaks in the city. The mountains that you see in there in the background have snow on them. They're covered in snow as we speak, and they're in the city. You can go skiing in Vancouver right now as we speak. In 3 places. There's Grouse Mountain, which is probably the most popular one. There's Cypress, and there's Seymour. So there's 3 ski areas that you literally can take a city bus to, which when I was in college just blew my mind. The fact that we could just go straight from our class to and you saw kids in class with their skis. they tromped to school with their skis and then hop on a bus to go skiing. It was really, really cool. And then there's a lot of areas. You saw Stanley Park, and Melissa and I plan on taking people around a bike ride around Stanley Park. It's a low level bike ride. It's not any kind of marathon or anything like that. It's all flat. We can rent bikes dirt cheap, and we'll just do a nice pedal. Some beautiful spots to take pictures of there. There's Gastown, which is the original area of Vancouver, also very, very pretty. Chinatown, False Creek area you saw there, an area called Granville Island, which is a big, huge public market. So all kinds of really, really pretty spots in Vancouver. So if you can't make it to join us in Lisbon, definitely try to make it to here in Vancouver. For you American listeners, your money goes a third further. $1 American is $1.33 Canadian. $100 means you get an extra $33, which is a great freaking deal if you are in the States and coming up here to Canada, anywhere in Canada, but to Vancouver. If you need more information about that, go to startingpointphotography.com or send me an email to Shawn at startingpointphotography.com. Bless you. Folks, that's it for tonight's show. I want to say thanks, as always, to our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com for being here each and every week. I want to say thanks to you guys for being here each and every week and being tuned into the show, whether you're just listening in live or whether you tuned in to the archive. As always, thanks to my beautiful wife who hates me, and she has every reason to hate me. I said thanks to my beautiful wife who has every reason to hate me.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
No! I said thanks to my beautiful wife. You're supposed to say you're welcome.
You're welcome.
Oh, this is going to be a tough night, kids. Folks, as always, I've been Shawn King, and
I'm Melissa King.
And you've been listening to Your Mac Life.
Bye.
See ya.